Welcome to the Eddie Lam Show. We dedicate this podcast to interviewing musicians of every kind, as well as online content creators on social media. Whether if they're starting out or if they're already on the rise and still growing, this show is all about having a fun conversation with our guests, talking about their favorite things that relate to their passion for their projects. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's have that conversation. As performing artists, we showcase our skills through our live shows and various media outlets, including recordings. But this local Vancouver artist has accomplished building a healthy community of like-minded people, and it all starts with creativity and the care for empowering unrecognized talent. Our guest for this episode is Kristina Lao, singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, and much more. We'll be discussing about her musical catalog and her high involvement in the local scene, supporting our city's musical talent and community events worth checking out. Okay, everybody, in the studio, my next guest is no stranger to the Vancouver music scene. We've met back in the old open mic days pre-COVID, and we've kept in touch since then. We've seen each other's musical adventures grow as the years went by, even during COVID and post-COVID. And then we even shared the big stage together just last year at the Dragon Boat Festival 2024. And she's done so much for the community as well. She's been involved in curating festivals, community events, and she's also been involved in such organizations as Music BC and so much more. She's an entrepreneur. She is a musical artist. She's an actress. She's done everything, very multi-talented. So we're really happy to have the amazing, wonderful Kristina Lao in the studio. Welcome to the Eddie Lam Show, Kristina. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so much better for seeing you, Eddie. Thank you for having me.
No problem. It's always a pleasure to have all these amazing guests here, including yourself, just to get to know about your journey as an artist, as a content creator, as an entertainer of every kind, you know. And
that was a very nice introduction. It was a very warm introduction. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah. Well, you deserve it. And, you know, when it comes to Vancouver artists, we got to know the community through the open mic nights back in late 2010s. And even with you being so involved in the music scene behind the scenes as well, you see so many different kinds of talent, not just from their beginning stages, but then their growth from there too and moving forward. You came from Hong Kong and then you moved to Vancouver. So what was your first impression when you came to Vancouver and found the music scene here?
I might make enemies quickly by answering this question. I moved in 2015 and I had come from London. I'm from Hong Kong. Correct, and I had been living in London for 5 years, and London's a super city. And
that's right.
And so is Hong Kong, and I got to Vancouver, and I was blown away. I remember doing an interview right when I arrived. I was blown away by the water quality and the air quality, and then I was really underwhelmed by the lack of open mics and lack of music scene. I couldn't find places to play very easily.
Right.
But I quickly discovered that there was a huge amount of talent. And when I did find places to play, I found people like you. Like you were one of probably the first people I met here.
You're kidding? Seriously?
Yeah, in 2015. I mean, I've been here for 10 years.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which open mic was it? Was it Cardam's?
Either like Cartams or Trees or... I went to Café du Soleil once or twice. I'm sure we bumped into each other at Pancakes and Jam, like the house parties.
Oh, yes, I remember those days.
Yeah, so there were these scenes that were like not quite underground. They were kind of like ground.
Yeah.
You know, like ground level. And once I found out more and more about these scenes and the niches and the people that were around, I was just started getting so obsessed, so professionally obsessed with like this talent pool that existed here.
That's right.
That you really had to scratch the surface to find. But, you know, you and I found each other. We found it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know you were saying that there was a lack of open mics when you first came to the town.
Compared to London.
Compared to London, it's true. But it's so funny you say that because it was during those times, if I remember correctly, because I mean, I've been in the scene for such a long time myself too. But one of the patterns that we do see is that so many places that have a good thing going, they close down. You know, and even when places like open mics were happening, you know, they closed down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, like when you and I went to places like Cardam's Donuts, I remember when I first heard the news that they were going to have live music at that specific location on Main Street.
No less Jess Vira was going to be running it, the legend herself.
Yes, she's one of what I call in video game terms the final boss of the music scene.
It's a great term. Yeah, she's like the matriarch of the ground level, scene.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
It's so funny because Jessica played video games too back in her youth, and we would geek out about all our favorite Mario games, right?
Oh,
and her and her family were such huge gamers. So,
right.
but it was amazing how a place like a donut shop wanted to support local music, and our old buddy Regs, who was the owner, the founder of Cardam's. He had a great love for music. He was a DJ as well back in the days when I knew him.
Oh,
and but to see that happen, it was great. But then seeing folks like you and seeing other folks like Ian.
Like Ian Cromwell.
Yes, Mr. Cromwell.
Locals Lounge. Shout out Locals Lounge.
That's right, Locals Lounge. And so seeing you and Ian entertain these other young folks who were just starving for live music, it was really worth it to be in a place like that was unusual. It was outside the box. It would be like having live music at a Tim Hortons, for example,
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Ian is such a dear friend of mine, and when I first arrived, shortly after discovering that there was a scene, I also went to a school that is now no longer around, sadly, but I went to Nimbus.
Right.
And
rest in peace.
Yeah. And Nimbus was hosting the Canadian Songwriter Challenge. And I met someone there. Her name's Cassie De Silva. She now, I think, lives in Toronto, but we started a project called Indie Van City. Right. And Indie Van City was where we started to host events at music appropriate venues.
That's
so
right.
They could host music.
Yes.
Live music, but we would take over for one evening a month, and we specifically went out to try and activate audiences.
That's right.
In new venues every month to develop audiences, because that was one of the big things that I thought was missing in this city. Was we had a big problem with audience development.
That's right. And this is the most important thing. I had a guest here almost a year ago who told me the same thing. The one thing he says that makes any concert, any festival, or even a small show so enjoyable is the connection between the artist and the audience, right? And engagement is such a key factor. And it's true, though, even with audience development, it's like, we want these amazing artists, especially the new artists, to gain some fans who would fall in love with their music.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a big topic, and
it is.
I mean, I don't know whoever's listening to this podcast, whether you're a creative or you're a music, aficionado, you love live music. One of the big things that I'm constantly talking about is how do we create a sustainable career in media and entertainment? That's my professional obsession.
Yes, exactly.
For myself and for other people. And I think one of the big things is we need to have more conversations about what it is that makes a city a music city.
That's right.
What makes a space a music loving space, or an entertainment loving space.
Yeah.
And that takes investment, not just of the money kind, but of the urban, like all the way down to urban planning.
That's right.
And the attention economy is such a huge part of that.
Exactly. And we talk about our music fans here. Of course, first of all, big shout out to all our followers who enjoy the music that we do, especially all Kristina's fans here who are tuning in. Shout out to the amazing Kristina fans who are so loyal and cheer her on for every show that she does.
Yeah.
But of course, you and I were music fans at one point before we became musicians.
We still are.
Yeah, we still are
We're still
today.
fans. I'm a fan. I'm an Eddie Lamb fan. I'm a Lamb fan.
Oh, thank you. I'm a Lao fan over here. So with you as a fan, what was the first song that you've listened to in your childhood, or as far as you can remember, that you just fell in love with instantly? You're like, oh my goodness, I love this song so much.
It was Never Met a Friend Like Me in Aladdin.
You serious? Robin Williams?
Yeah, I
Really?
memorized that song.
Oh my goodness.
I just had to know every single word of that song. All I wanted to be was the genie or Jafar, because Jafar was just so well dressed, and the genie was just could sing really fast. And no wonder then my first musical the first lead I ever got was a Sondheim, which is just patter songs, really singing fast, speaking lots of words.
Yeah, and with the connection with Friend Like Me, when you go down Kitsilano, there's a street called Baklava Street, which is mentioned in the lyrics of the song.
Do you know, my mother, Mama Lao, learned how to make baklava because I was obsessed with the idea of it, but I had no idea what it was.
So same here, yeah.
I had no idea what it was, but I loved the thought of it, and I loved this song so much that I was like, Mom, I've got to have baklava. And she was like, what is that? And, she just picked up a recipe book and did what she always does, which was like make magic out of random ingredients. And she now makes the best baklava.
That's amazing. Props to Mama Lao for making the effort.
Oh, she just knows how to do everything. It's so weird.
I think Disneyland should hire her to cook that if there's ever an Aladdin exhibit.
Have a Chinese lady make baklava. That's really authentic. She does it well. She does it really well.
I feel like the part where Robin Williams says, have some of column A and column B.
All of column B.
I'm just like, well, this is a good way to promote a healthy, balanced diet.
That's right. That's right.
Besides baklava.
Just this sugar syrup soaked triangles of puff pastry.
Yeah, there you go.
Pistachio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Aladdin, Walt Disney, I mean, the soundtrack was just amazing, right? From Arabian Night all the way to A Whole New World. Did the movie capture your attention too as a kid growing up?
When I was growing up, we watched a lot of Disney movies.
Yeah.
So yes, it did. I loved watching Disney movies, but when you're a child, when you're an adult looking back at being a child and you're like, oh, I should have known that maybe I would go into entertainment, or I should have known if I would have gone into this. Or I showed a propensity quite young. Yeah. I was just obsessed with learning the lines.
Of course, yeah.
I just wanted to say things the way they said them, or sing the songs the way they sang them, but I had no idea how to sing. So I did. I liked the movies, but I liked the technical challenge of learning how to do something from mimicking more than the story, really.
I would love to one day have you come over to the Lamb Jam open mic night and just do any Aladdin song from the soundtrack that you desire. If you want to do Friend Like Me, you're welcome to, or Prince Ali. Any of those, you are more than welcome anytime.
Oh, I don't know if I could do them anymore. I would love to try. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. That one line that really shocked me a little bit was when Aladdin said, "That no good two-faced son of a jackal." And when he said that, I was like, he almost could have said the other word.
Yeah, he very much could have. Oh,
I'm
Disney.
sure my parents' reaction, was like, "Whoa, what the?" Oh, I don't know about this movie anymore.
I know. And now when you look at things now, we realize how quickly entertainment dates, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It dates so fast. You look back at Snow White and you're like, what? It was like someone just drew that.
Yeah, I know. And just the animation quality, though, especially from The Little Mermaid all the way up to even, let's say, dare I say, Emperor's New Groove. You can't deny how much effort went into that hand-drawn animation.
Yeah. It was incredible. I mean, I think now watching, Disney films and things that are coming out today, the kind of the animation that exists in the world. I went to see what's the name of that new film that's got the Black Widow in it?
Oh,
the new Marvel.
Right. I know which one you're talking about. It's not.
It's not on the top of my head. But it's like a new version of not quite IMAX, but like there's panels of
Omnimax or
Omnimax, I think it was. I went to the Omnimax theater.
Probably, yeah.
And it was honestly the first time I've been to a cinema where I was like really glad that I went to see this in a cinema.
Yeah.
Because it rekindled my love of being in that space, because it gave me an awe that I couldn't find in my home.
That's right.
That's how fast. Well, it's fast and slow, but that's how we're evolving. We're evolving our entertainment. The entertainment product is totally different now.
Yeah.
And we're evolving with those times. I think a lot of musicians, a lot of actors, a lot of creatives that I know, and a lot of filmmakers and entertainment makers, media makers are trying to figure out how they fit in the new world.
And hence a whole new world.
No,
sorry, I had to do it.
World. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry, I just had to do that just for you, just to make you happy. I feel like any Latin reference I'll make is just going to make it all smiley. It's just going to be
perfect. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Speaking of creation, animation, as we talked about Disney just now, I was looking back at your Spotify catalog, right?
It's very short.
Still, but see, this is the thing. When I looked at it, I did see a bit of an ongoing theme, at least from my personal perspective. So correct me if I am wrong on this whole thing. But when you look at song titles such as Pages, Paint is Beautiful, Let's Pretend, Paper Boat. Okay, to me, they all seem. Oh, and of course, What Do You Do in the Dark? They all seem to link that theme of creativity, because the whole thing with, let's say, Paper Boat, Pages, Paint, right? Like that stationary items, right? We use that to make art, but What Do You Do in the Dark? Because that talks about the expressions of emotions, right? And then at the same time, it's Let's Pretend. Let's Pretend has. It's what we do as kids, for example. We use our imagination, creativity, and it links back to that, right? And even with Let's Pretend, after we just talked about Disney, I noticed that the chorus had a bit of that Disney kind of vibe to it, the melody.
Yeah, and thank you for listening. It's interesting because I have a lot of songs written and a lot of songs that are scheduled for release this year.
That's right.
But I didn't release for a really long time, and none of the songs that I had written when I was in development in London were ever released. So I have this whole invisible library.
Yeah.
So it's really it's lovely that you checked out the songs, and the theme is interesting. I think the theme of creativity is really. It is a through line for me. I think a lot of the musical theatre does come through, whether I like it or not. Yes, it does. I have that and I love it. But I also tried to deny it for a long time because I was it's not cool. Like in my mind, I was like, this isn't cool. It's like when, West Coast sound, the Vancouver West Coast sound is so lazy sounding, like it's like not lazy, that's not a good word for it, it's effortless, whereas
relaxed.
Musical theatre is quite pointed and structured and it's got it's a little bit more kind of, it can be more bubbly. You can have pop musical theatre writers like, Jason Robert Brown's a great example.
Prime example. You kidding me? Yeah.
Like what a fantastic example.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, exactly. And however, I think a lot of what I talk about are Disney style, Disney influenced, or maybe musical theatre influenced or infused songs musically
Yeah.
with adult themes lyrically.
That's true.
And so Let's Pretend is actually about someone not being able to leave a toxic relationship,
That's
a
right.
situation that is really very unhealthy for them.
That's right.
And it's the coping mechanism of not being able to do that and saying, let's just pretend that everything's fine until I can figure out how to get out of here.
Yeah. And I just like the fact that when you use the title Let's Pretend, it's like you're using the title in relation to what children do. We pretend, we play. Some of us, we pretend to be our favorite stars, our favorite athletes.
Yeah.
But you link it more to, like you said, real adult situations where we're trying to pretend to like this relationship. We're trying to make this work, but it's not, even though it's not. It's a terrible relationship, but hey, let's play pretend anyways.
It's what I've realized is that as artists, certain artists, and for me, certainly as an artist, I think we get to be professional human beings.
Yes.
And that's not often a luxury that everyone is afforded. So to be able to bear witness to the human experience and put it into words so that someone who has a really taxing, let's call it essential service job, someone who's not in the business of processing emotions has some avenue to be able to do that. That's why I fell in love with entertainment.
That's right. Yeah.
Filmmaking is, theater, of course, my great love of theater. It's my partner and I just read a play with two friends of ours yesterday. We just sat around a table and did a play read through.
Nice.
And it is just such a specific way of gifting the people who experience whatever that thing is, the music or the theater, the play, or the poem.
That's right.
It gives you a way to process feeling safely. Doesn't mean it's the equivalent of therapy. I'm not saying don't do anything else, but I think great music, especially, it guides us through more than just being a soundtrack to our lives. It gives us a mechanism to either cope or thrive, depending on how we utilize it.
Yeah, and when you were reading these scripts, it's like you're processing this dialogue that was written a little while back, and it's like you're understanding not just the dialogue, but the dialogue is giving you like just like songs, the emotions, right? And just like cinema, the scenes are giving us the emotions. They're giving us the atmosphere of what's going on in here. And even if it's not a dialogue, even as simple as a soliloquy where the person's talking to themselves as well. But Shakespeare did it best when you think about all the previous plays that he's written, where even just a simple soliloquy, a monologue, whatever it may be, it's like you feel for these characters.
Well, you feel for them, I think, because you see them and you see you in them.
Exactly.
So
exactly that.
Which is, again, that shared humanity, right? That's our human experience.
Yeah. And as speaking of turning those pages, we got to get to that song, your song Pages, right? When we talk about different chapters of your life, I listen to Pages, and the minute that piano hit, I couldn't help but notice that this could be something that could be so fitting for a soundtrack for a rom-com scene, like almost like near the ending, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's got that whole thing of talking about chapters of your life. It's almost like a nice little coming of age kind of style of that feeling. And I know, like yourself being an actress, you're also, but just hearing stuff like this, it's almost like you understood soundtracks in a way.
That's such a high compliment because do you know who Nancy Myers is?
No, who's Nancy Myers?
So she does films, like The Holiday and like these very iconic romantic comedies.
Oh,
they're Nancy Myers.
Okay.
Those are Nancy Myers films.
Oh, those are her films.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know that.
I have to look up who else. Like, I'll have to tell you what other films she does, because I have often not known that it's a Nancy Myers film until I listen to the soundtrack.
Seriously?
So she's a producer, filmmaker. She's like, the films. Let's see, filmography. Father of the Bride, Once Upon a Crime.
Father
The
of the Bride.
Parent Trap.
Yes, Parent Trap.
Something's got to
Okay.
give. What women want. The Holiday. It's complicated. The Intern. Wow, there were 3 The Father of the Brides. Thank you for the wonderful compliment. I think I've listened to a lot of soundtracks, very specific ones.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love cinematic music because I just think it's got such and that's why I'm kind of moving in towards what I describe as my genre being cinematic folk pop.
And speaking of cinematic, I got to bring this to your attention as well, because a few weeks ago, I got together with my friends at my friend's place. We were watching the Eurovision finals.
Okay.
Right.
Fun.
And I got to send these tracks over to you. The person that won represented Austria, and he sang this really amazing tune. But the visual presentation was just as amazing too, right? Because I think in Eurovision, they evaluate performances based on both the visual, like the presentation, and also, of course, your singing performance too, right? But the guy from Austria who won, I gotta tell you, like, that song was just 100% pure cinema right there. If you love epic cinema music, this guy, I think his name is JJ. Yeah, JJ. Has some Asian ancestry as well, actually. But yeah, lives in Austria, represented Austria, won first place. Almost didn't when they were doing the counting of the votes and everything like that. It was freaky. It's like when you watch the Olympics, that same thing, right? But if you love cinema style of music, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that was in the top 10 from Eurovision 2025.
Right. Yeah, please. I'd love to see. I'd love to listen.
Yeah. And the person who produced your song Pages, Ari, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was your experience working with him?
Oh my gosh. It brings us back to open mics.
Yeah.
Ari used to run the open mics that I would go to in London.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so years later, and he was on the board, and I didn't know how good he was as a producer. I just really loved his energy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I'd left England and I was like, oh, I'm going to work with Ari one day. And of course, you're in theatre school in London, you can't afford anything. You know, you graduate, you still can't afford anything. You have like 5 jobs. You're just trying to get by.
Yes, just trying to pay the bills, right? Yes.
Yeah, living in a crappy little, flat in Streatham, south of the river. I moved here. And then I booked a tour, a UK tour of a musical. And that took me back to England for months. We did a big like UK tour, 100 shows.
Okay.
And in that time I had 3 or 4 days off every few weeks.
Okay.
So we'd come back to base. London was base. And I realized that at that point I could afford Ari.
Nice.
And I didn't know if I could afford his full rate, but I could definitely afford to be like, I can afford something.
A few sessions maybe.
So I
here
basically
and there.
was like, Ari, I've got this much money.
Right on.
What can I afford to do with you? And he was like, come in. We had an amazing pianist, Andrew Greenwood, came in and played the piano.
Right on.
Did not know the song very well, like at all, because I was kind of writing it on the fly. Everything was just really... Everything was very, I had written the song and I played it on, I think I played the very basic chords to him.
Okay.
And then just went, we've got 2 hours to get this done.
Wow.
And we did it we did 2 songs in 4 hours.
That's amazing.
And then Ari took it away and mixed it and just made it beautiful. I had a bit of a play with some harmonies and that was that.
That's amazing. And in the beginning, you hear pages turning.
Yes.
Whose idea was that?
That was mine.
That was yours.
I think when we talk about, I often find it strange to kind of talk about what a producer does.
That's right.
Because it's such a subjective term. So I came in and Ari basically said, this is your time to play how you want to play.
Yes.
So I said, okay, I want piano. This is kind of the idea I want. Here are the harmonies I'm going to put in. These are the actions I want.
Awesome.
And he just made it all happen.
The reason why I asked that is because I'm just so impressed by this song. Like
Thank
for me,
you.
I pay attention to every little detail in songs, because with myself as someone who also records music at home too, right? I always like to see how others do their thing, you know, and just to hear all these different details. I'm just like, oh wow! And even when I pay attention to the lyrics, I'm just like, hey, this is pretty clever, you know. So
Thanks.
yeah, so Pages is such a great one. But of course, from Pages to Paint is Beautiful, it's such a great track as well. Who's the gentleman that did the harmonies with you?
Cody Taylor. Cody Taylor, Fiend Recordings. So also was a producer that I found, I discovered when I first moved here.
Right on.
And Cody is, I just couldn't say more amazing things about Cody. If you ever want someone to walk into a room with and just experiment.
Yeah.
And he's fantastic with electronic music.
Right on.
Pop, kind of dark pop. He's so good at doing so many things. So yeah, that was Cody, and we co-wrote that song, and it's just beautiful. I think it really is such a pretty song.
And both your voices go so well together too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think Cody really, he's an exceptionally talented person. Yeah.
Shout out to Cody Taylor,
Yeah.
everybody.
Fiend Recordings. Yeah. Cody's the Cody. He's
Awesome.
the Cody.
There you go.
Yeah.
But speaking of backup vocals, we have a very cool mutual friend that plays with you at live shows, and you have a show coming up, which is Dragon Boat Festival 2025.
That's
the same festival you and I played last year.
That's right.
But our good friend Sam Emlyn has played with you, keys, backup vocals, everything. Like both you guys, you and her sound so well together. Also.
Thank you. We're working on what we're hoping will be oak and honey.
Yeah.
An oak and honey sound.
Nice.
And both of us are so obsessed with harmonies, and Sam is so talented. And I've known Sam for almost that whole 10 years as well.
Just as long as you and I. Wow.
One of the first people that, she was one of the first people that actually was part of Indie Van City.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
And I think we should get her as a guest on this show one day. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I would love that.
And, you know, the cool thing I enjoyed so much about Sam was that, you know, she had that one video where she was singing a Kristina Aguilera song at a karaoke gathering, right? And the minute she hit that first note, the karaoke DJ paused the song and goes, whoa, wait a minute. Like, are you for real? Like, holy crap. That sounds just like Kristina.
Yeah.
Right? And I even when I heard that, I'm just like, holy crap. Like, was that Kristina or was that actually Sam singing?
That's amazing.
And I'm just like, that's like the best impression of Kristina I've ever heard from the beginning of that song.
Wow. Yes, is that the one that went viral?
Yeah, that's one that got millions of views on Instagram.
Views, yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. She's an amazing human. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Shout out to Sam. So we'll get you on the show one day, Sam.
Yeah.
But speaking of performances, there was a video of you that played Locals Lounge a little while back, right? And it was so cool just to get to know all the stuff that you've done and all the songs that you've written. And Ian Cromwell has been so supportive of your music as well.
Yeah.
Walk us through that experience as a Locals Lounge guest performer. How was that experience for you?
It was so nice to play at the Railway. I mean, I really like that venue.
Mm-hmm.
Ian and I have been fast friends for a very long time.
That's right.
And we have two very different stories about how we met, and I won't get into it this time because it's fun. It's a little Easter egg for if I meet you in person, ask me about the story. If I'm standing next to Ian Cromwell, ask him the story at the same time, and we'll have very different stories. But we became such good friends because of our mutual love for building community and of music for the sake of music.
That's right, yes.
So the Locals Lounge series, there was a musician interview series, and I had just been wrapping up Indie Van City because I didn't want it to continue if someone else could do something better.
I see.
It was built to die, literally. I did not want to do it. I wanted to do it only as long as it had to exist. And then when Locals Lounge started to arrive, Ian and I spoke a lot as Locals Lounge was developing and launching. And I really felt like Indie Van City didn't have to exist because Locals Lounge did. And now
that's right.
And I thought that was wonderful. And when he invited me, it was lovely because I had moved my focus to advocating at board level with Music BC around that time.
Yes.
It was a scary time for musicians. We were lobbying for a $22.5 million fund.
That's right, yeah.
That we, collectively, and thanks to all of the support letters and, the operational team of Music BC, the leadership, we secured that. So to answer your question, I mean, it was a joy to be a part of that and be invited on to speak and to be considered a local.
Someone like Ian made the effort to sit down with his guests, ask them a bunch of questions, just wanted to get, how we were talking about the audience connection, right? The artist connecting to the audience. And I think something like that, where it's like an interview styled show, it makes people get to know you, not only your current audiences, but even like new fans who may not know who you are, and they fell in love with not just your music, but they fell in love with your stories. Because I feel like through your songs, you're a storyteller.
Thank you. I feel like this is just a compliment podcast.
I know, but hence it circles back to everything that we were talking about. Cinema tells the story. And with you as an artist, it's like you're like this cool storyteller that takes us on a bit of an adventure.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I've never thought of myself as cool, but I definitely love adventure.
You're cool to me.
Cool club. You're cool to me, Eddie.
Oh, thank you.
I do think that what Ian did was very intentional, and I'm really honored to be a friend of someone who is so intentional about building community.
That's right, yeah.
And in such a way that he marries the kind of data and figures out what the need is.
That's right.
And something about the city is that we have the space and time in some ways to be iterative and to look back and say, okay, well, what worked? Did the series work?
Yeah.
Can we apply for funding to try and test this out?
That's right.
Can we try and support the community in this way and then see what also organically pops up?
That's right.
And that series was one of those initiatives. And I think I agree with you that it's great to have a glimpse behind the people who are on stage and making music.
Yeah, and fast forward to what you and Ian are doing. Even like back in last year, you guys helped selected the most suitable artist to do the Granville Street Block Party,
which we're doing again.
Which you're doing again.
Yeah,
yes, there
which
you
we're
go.
doing again.
Yeah, and so tell us about that. Like, what was the most fun thing about it, and what are some challenges that were that can be a bit of a bumpy road, but you managed to overcome during being in that position?
Great question. I think I have to shout out to the co-curators. There's Angela Van Stadter this year, Kentia Caban, Casey Coulter, and Mizzy. And we're kind of together co-curating. Ian is kind of overseeing the whole process.
That's right.
And he has a Locals Lounge team, Kevin and Meredith, and some other people who help with various things. So what's so delightful is being able to discover new musicians who are maybe not like young, but people that we don't know of.
That's right.
And so I'm really careful to not say like young up and coming musicians, because I think music is, this career isn't a ladder, it's a jungle gym. I say it all the time.
That's right.
And some people have just taken a break and they've come back. So rediscovering who is around and live and active is a really great and wonderful experience. Challenge is stage space. So Granville Promenade is, I think one of the things that's really tough is looking through and listening to applications and finding that either something technical has prevented someone from being considered, or the band just doesn't actually fit the vibe of what the festival is.
That's right.
And that is a subjective term. Sure, It can be considered that. However, you physically can't fit 6 people on that stage. There physically isn't the sound capability. There's not the backline to support certain types of artists. And that's hard because you do want certain people. You're like, this is going to sound great if we just had an extra $5,000 worth of gear or ... So it's always a challenge when you get great musicians and you can't give everyone an opportunity.
I know, and that's the thing too. But I think what you guys have going on, which is really amazing, is that you give them an opportunity to play in front of a crowd in downtown where everybody's just walking around doing their thing.
Yeah.
They're just shopping around. And yet all of a sudden, whoa, Saturday afternoon, there's a live band playing and it's a free show and we're enjoying it.
Yeah, and Downtown Van has been doing some really fantastic work activating public spaces.
Yeah.
And Ian and Locals Lounge has just been right there, you know. I don't know if anyone knows who Eduardo Ottoni is, but Event Lab is Eduardo Ottoni and James Ong, and they produce a lot of the festivals that we, you know, like including the Cherry Blossom Fest. They do a lot of the operational support that we don't know about, right? And these are the people, these are the invisible people, the less visible stewards of the music industry that are literally creating the infrastructure to allow for us to stand on a stage physically, literally.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned the Cherry Blossom Fest because that was the one I did this past March. It was the one in Yaletown.
Nice.
And it's so funny because that was the same night the Junos were happening in downtown.
Oh, I see.
And I remember.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Yeah, and I was just like, at first I was just like, oh my goodness, like I can't. Well, I know I shouldn't, care about a competing side, but I'm like, the little part of my head was like, I can't compete against that. Like, you kidding me? But then they were so good, like they were so supportive, and they have so many people that came. But because the format was piano karaoke, we got a bunch of really cool singers that just went up and did their thing,
I love that.
And we even saw some Juno volunteers that actually popped by after the Juno Awards too. So shout out to the folks behind Cherry Blossom Fest too. Like, you guys are amazing.
Yeah, there's so many shout outs in this podcast. It's just a podcast of shout outs.
I think that's all it is. It's the shout out of just sending people all the love, for being such cool people, cool artists, cool fans, and cool supporters of every kind, even all the event coordinators too.
Well, I think it's also really if you're listening to a podcast like this, you want to know about the city and the people who are making things work. If you play Cherry Blossom Festival, it's more likely than not someone's going to see you who has something to do with Dragon Boat. Someone's going to see you who has something to do with public disco. It is this type of small community in the perfect sense of the word, like in a boutique sense of the word, where we're all kind of showing up and staying involved. And I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, and the whole thing with community is such an important thing too, because sometimes I feel that when it comes to the music business side of things like that, even when you hear the word music business, like, we cringe, like, just to be really honest, right?
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh, right? Because you think about all folks involved who have such toxic traits that puts a big stain on what we love so much about music initially. We want to fall in love with music, right? But then I think what folks like you and I do is that we wanted to create the alternative. It's like, hey, there's other ways to be known in music, in the music scene without the dirty side of business. I think the community side is what really stands out from what folks like you and Ian do, right? For the Granville Block Party is another prime example. Locals Lounge, again, shout out to Ian for that. And or even as far as people who host open mic nights, all the hosts that we come across in the past to present, big shout out to them as well.
Yeah, I think the music industry is an industry.
Yes.
And it is a community. And whenever I coach, and now I coach career strategy, I've been coaching, I'm one of for Jumpstart Consultants.
That's right, yes. I remember that, yes.
But I also do it at Sonda, which is an acting coaching school.
Yeah.
So creative career strategy is something I've been obsessed with and researching and helping others with for literally a decade now.
Yes.
To have a sustainable career, I really believe that, it's it's different. Every single human being is different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you really want to try and have both a firm eye on what you're looking to achieve.
That's right.
The metrics, the business. You get involved in the business because you don't want to do this as a hobby. You want this to be your livelihood.
That's right.
Like your financial livelihood.
Yeah.
But in order to sustain your soul, you need to be involved in community.
That's right.
And one of the greatest ways, I don't like to use the word serve.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it brings up a lot of cultural and generational anxiety for me to be of service, especially coming from an Asian background and also coming from being a woman.
Right.
But what I will say is when you are generative and you are co-contributing to your community, that's a sense of value and purpose that helps you keep going when the financial return is lower. Because we're not just singular constructs. We're not just looking at, okay, I'm only successful if I've made X amount of money.
Yeah.
Sure, that's a really great benchmark, and I think it's important to go for that money.
Yeah.
But when you isolate it and only define your happiness based on that, it's going to be a really lonely road, or you're going to have to make choices that put you in compromising positions.
That's right. And you were saying about how, important it is that, it's, when you do this kind of stuff, you want to be passionate about it, right? Just like how you're so passionate about, about the arts, about entertainment in general.
That's a really good statement, actually, because I don't think you have to be passionate all the time.
Okay.
I don't think an accountant is passionate all of the time. I don't think someone who always wanted to be a lawyer or a politician or, you're not always passionate.
Yeah.
But I think you need to have purpose. You need to know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Passion's hard because passion is like, it can be fleeting. It's the same as when people are like, you've got to be inspired to do it. I'm like, no, I don't. I just have to do it. Sometimes you just kind of have to be a bit of an athlete. Like you don't want to get up every day and write a new song, but you do it because 1,028 songs later is the song that you needed to write 1,027 songs to get to that golden child song. Right. You can't be passionate every single day.
Yeah. But I think the reason why I used that word passion though, right? Because I think like one of the earlier things you said a little while back, not too long ago probably, was that, it's like, even if you were to play at a pub in front of like just 5 of your main friends that were there to see you, and even though it could, even though there's not 100 people, but you're playing your songs to 5 people who really admire what you do. It's like, it still feels really like amazing to you to do that.
The sentiment to that was, I would rather be doing that.
Yeah.
Than working in an office 9 to 5.
Yes.
I don't think it's enough.
Yeah.
Like if that's not where I would stop. I wouldn't be like, I'm totally happy with 5 people, but I would rather be playing. I think my statement was, I'd rather be sitting in a dusty old pub in a crack of a corner of England.
Right.
Playing to one drunken soul on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm doing my absolute best to be a creative full time.
Yeah.
Than to give that up and get comfortable with mediocrity, with my version of what mediocrity is.
That's a very, very good point.
So I won't love it.
Yeah.
I won't love that moment.
Yeah.
But when I realized that I didn't have the power to stay confident my whole life, what I realized is that I needed to learn how to be resolute.
Of course.
And resolution is me saying, as long as I am writing my music and I'm out there and I'm doing what I can, I'd rather do that than be working a 9 to 5 that physically made me feel ill.
Right. Awesome. Well, it's good to hear you make that point, though.
I don't know. It's a bit dark. A lot of people are like, I do it because I love it so much. And I'm like, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I really dislike. I wish I wanted to be an accountant.
Yeah.
That'd be so much safer. Like,
Yeah.
I really wish some days
Yeah.
that I did not want, that would be enough. That would be good. Or a lawyer or a doctor or something that people, need.
Yeah.
And I do think that people need artists, but I don't think people value artists the way that I think they deserve to be valued. We deserve to be valued.
That's very true.
That's a tough career to go into when you're considered a non-essential service. And then all of society is telling you all of the time that you should be grateful because you get to live your passion. You get to live this dream life, and they don't realize that that it's a compulsion a lot of the time. It's the fact that it is physically harmful to me in my guts to be in an office. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I had gigs where I've only played to like 5 of my friends who showed up.
Yeah.
You know, when you're there in that moment, it can, it can suck the fact that only 5 people showed up. But then when I look at it in retrospect, I'm like, you know what though? Those 5 people actually made the effort to come watch us do our thing. And even if one person came to your show, I feel like it's worth it, because that one person, if they enjoyed it, they're going to tell their friends about it down the road, and then work can get out eventually.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, just from my experience, all it took was just some time. But also still be able to maintain that relationship with the people who came to your shows.
Yeah.
And because I think what worked for me, let's take piano karaoke as a prime example, right? I think the reason why that did so well over the years is because it's not just a place where, of course, people love the premise of coming up and, sing while I play the piano with them, right? And, they love that idea. But it's those little things that we try to do to make things, a good experience. So it would be, even during intermission, me going around the tables, telling people, thanking them for coming down. Hey, are you guys having a good time? Hey, what's your name if I don't know you, right? And it's like, if you own a restaurant, you want to talk to your customers and be like, hey, how are things going with you guys, right? Because it circles back to the whole thing. For me, like creating that relationship with our followers makes a huge difference. And I think that's the key essential in order to see the growth come out of it. But that's just me.
I think it's nice to feel like you belong, right?
Yeah.
Eddie comes out over to your table and says, hey, it's nice to see you again.
Thanks for singing. Thanks for clapping along.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But speaking of good times, I know with you being a person who curates events and seeing all these different new artists or even unrecognized talent, what would be the one thing you want to say to these folks that would help them? What advice would you give?
I mean, I wouldn't give any, to be honest. I don't think artists always need advice.
Yeah.
I think that's a great question, but I don't think I'm really an advice giver. I would probably ask them what they thought they needed and try and see if I had a resource or someone that I could connect them with. I don't know. I think it's hard to give one thing. I don't know how to answer that question. I would ask more questions. If someone said to me, like, what advice would you give me? I'd need to know who you are first.
That's right.
I wouldn't just be like, just keep going, because that's not helpful to most people. It's only helpful to a small few people who might have needed to hear that.
Yeah.
What I will say is, for myself, what I have been working on for myself recently is really figuring out how to bolster my portfolio. And when I say portfolio, I mean my career portfolio. So
that's right.
When I think about my life, I look at where I'm at. I look at how many years experience I have, the big or bodacious goals that I've got or that I had. And I look at how I want my income to be coming in.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time when I run this exercise with other people, they say, well, it's really difficult because I don't know where my money's coming from and I don't know how I'm going to make it. And I don't have control over this. That's all fair, but you can still create intention.
Yes.
And so for me in 2024, what I realized is I was producing a lot of events. I was getting hired to do that. I was becoming more and more known for being that person.
Yeah.
And I looked at my pie and I realized that most of my, it's always been about 50-50, intentionally, 50% performance-based income, work, time, all that sort of thing. 50% producing, advocating, championing sustainable careers. And I realized in 2024 that I had reached the pinnacle of that portfolio. And so I was now looking at, what do I want to do? How do I want to rejig what this is?
Right.
And what I did was I started to pull apart, okay, how much time am I spending? In how much time am I actually investing? How much money am I investing into music?
Yeah.
And I just basically built a new business plan. And that's a very rudimentary way of saying I looked at my pie and went, I'm spending too much time on here. I'm not investing enough time and money on here.
Yeah.
But I keep telling people that I'm doing this, or people think that I'm, more and more successful.
Yeah.
Than I actually really am. So I took that all away and I went to my coach. I've got career coaches myself, and I went, okay, it's time to make a big change.
Yeah.
I've gotten to here, and now I need to get to there. And I need different skills. I need to set different intentions. I need to release what it was that I was doing because I've done it now.
Yeah.
And I need to aggressively or assertively shift and put my focus on different things. That's how I booked this year, 2025. I booked so many more performances. I've got more showcases than I've ever had.
Right on.
I've got this fantastic band, but it starts with having intention, and it starts with realizing that you may not have control over anything, but you can set intention and run towards those things instead of saying, well, it's just not up to me. That's not really advice. It's what I'm doing for myself.
Yeah.
So.
But thanks I really appreciate you just sharing that though, because like even you look back at how it was last year for you and now how it is for 2025 and onwards, it's great to know that now there's all these things that are happening for you. And it's just, it's just like just like your music, you're taking us on an awesome adventure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And speaking of adventures, so we're going to wrap things up here. Just a couple of things. So your next show, if this airs before the event, you got Dragon Boat Festival 2025 next Saturday.
That's right. 22nd of June.
Sunday, yes.
Sunday,
June 22nd, yes.
Yeah. Well, Ian Cromwell is on June 21st.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
yes.
we're going to go see Ian. And then 22nd of June, we're on at 3:30 with my band Lean. So that's really exciting. And then we'll have Light Up Chinatown on the 16th of August.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I'm sure all the fans are excited for you about that. And so it's going to be amazing. And where can people find you on the interwebs, Kristina?
I normally send people to KristinaLao.com. Kristina with a K and Lao is Lao.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah. And one more question just to have some fun with this, okay? Because we talked about Disney earlier. So let's say I accompany you on piano and you have a choice of any other Disney song besides our famous Genie song. What other song would you want to do together as a duet?
Oh, the first song that came to mind was How Far I'll Go in Moana.
Oh, yes.
That's a fun song to sing.
Yes, oh for sure. I know how to play the chords of that song, but I would love to learn the whole song actually. So
it's a fun song.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that song, but I'd have to think about it more. But that's the first one that came to my mind.
I think it's a great choice, to be honest with you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kristina. We've actually been talking for almost an hour, if you can believe it.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much. And so, folks, again, please follow Kristina. Check out her band, Lean. They're performing at Dragon Boat Festival 2025, Sunday, June 22nd at 3 p.m., you said?
3:30.
3:30. Yes, sorry. Yes, 3:30. And make sure you follow her on the interwebs as well, social media, website, all that good stuff. And please check out all the stuff she has on YouTube and all other parts in the local scene. We can't wait to see what else you have up your sleeves, Kristina, because you are a person with many great stories and adventures to tell.
Thank you, Eddie. I so appreciate that.
No problem. And thank you, everybody. We will see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Eddie Lam Show, a podcast dedicated to interviewing musicians and online content creators of every kind. If you would like to be a guest on the program, feel free to send me an email at eddielammusic@gmail.com. That's EDDIELAMmusic@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out my website at eddielammusic.ca. That's EDDIELAMmusic.ca. You can also follow me on social media. Username is Eddie Lam Music. That's EDDIELAM Music on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning into our program. In the meantime, stay in touch, stay safe, and as always, stay awesome.